Hey folks, welcome to a special episode of IndieSponge. I'm here with a dear friend and collaborator. Let me present him direct from Rome, Italy. Tommaso Tocci, welcome to IndieSponge.
Hey Eric, thanks for having me. Hi.
So you're physically based in Paris, actually, and
Yeah.
we both know Christmas morning for the Venice Film Festival is coming up. The actual film lineup is going to be announced on July 28th. So I'm actually really enthusiastic and excited. The reason being is this is actually a physical festival, and there is a comp and there is a jury headlined by Cate Blanchett. And so what I wanted to do with you, seeing that you've been there a handful of times, is parse or go through a list of films that I feel might be there. And you could sort of like give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down and sort of like your impressions perhaps on the filmmaker, the project, and what you think, if you think I'm completely bananas or sort of like hitting the mark. So I first wanted to begin with the returning champions. By returning champions, it's people that have actually won the highest prize at the film festival. I came up with 4 filmmaker names because they have films that are going to be potentially ready for that festival. Beginning with Lorenzo Vigas, who gave us From Afar, I believe in 2015. He's been in a long-term edit with the box La Caja. What are your impressions of him finally going back to the Croisette with his, I believe this is his sophomore feature?
Well, yeah, not the Croisette, but
sorry, yeah,
I think this would be a great fit. Now, I'm not sure. I think if they can figure out a way to have the team physically, this would, and if the film is ready, this would be a great fit because this was probably it's not the best winner I've seen in Venice.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it held up especially well. But the film was good, and also was a very Venice type of winner. So in a way, it's like it fits the brand really well. I think it would be, if he managed to get the film, if the film is ready, this would be a surefire entry in the competition. It would be good. It fits the profile, and it's not part of this because now in Europe with Cannes, the entire industry has been out of step, out of balance. So it's a mess. And I think this would be maybe something that stays a bit out of that game. Yeah, that would be a thumbs up for me if they can get the film.
Yeah, it's not, again, the competition might be slimmed down ever so slightly. I think we're looking at maybe 20 titles. And we're always expecting a large US contingency. We're expecting there to be a really strong Italian presence this year, seeing that so many Italian films didn't appear in the Cannes label lineup. So this Mexican entity or Mexican financed film does feel appropriate for this edition. Going on to the next title, Gianfranco Rosi with Nocturnal. He was a winner, I believe, for a doc film called Sacro GRA. Perhaps you can say a lot more on this than I could ever do.
Yeah, this was a surprise winner if I ever saw one in Venice. This was, it's an Italian documentary. Gianfranco Rosi has worked internationally a lot, but he is Italian, and this documentary was very much about Rome. You say a doc, yes, it was a doc, but it was certainly a hybrid form. I like the fact that he won. I like the fact that they went there and awarded something that was not absolutely was not thought of as of something that could go the whole way. And I mean, and since then it's really built his profile a lot more. It's been in Berlin, so this would certainly be a higher profile pick. This would certainly be one of the favorites, one of the headlines. Also, again, because he's very much international, he's worked globally. I think this is supposed to be, it's also perfectly fits within his style of this sort of like doc hybrid thing. And it's about the Middle East and him traveling around Lebanon, Iran and Syria. And like the film is called Nocturnal. So it's all at night. So, you know, you can expect certainly some beautiful nighttime visuals of this sort of places. So again, it's been, I guess, held up by the pandemic, the emergency. But if that this would certainly be a big pick for Barbera.
Yeah, and I feel as if yeah, whenever you enter a docu-type experimental film in any competition, I think it's I think it gives a healthy backbone to whatever that edition might look like. And like, I'm not even considering like what a Fahrenheit 9/11 might have meant to the comps for Cannes, the year that it won the Palme d'Or. Like, I feel as if this belongs to something that wants to be more axed on the artistic side of
this would be a much harder sell than something like that, because that has a sort of a lot of appeal in terms of the politics and even just the language, the tone of the film. You know that it's something that it's going to be talked about. It intersects with a lot of stuff going on, and it's still easy to digest and to deal with. This would be something that I think it's a lot harder to put your finger on it. Certainly like vastly more art house oriented. So, that's why Sacro Grau was honestly such a surprise. I still remember the feeling in the room, both internationally from the international press and from the locals. Like nobody could believe it.
Staying with the experimental IPOs, there's Lav Diaz, who's been working on When the Waves Are Gone, which was sort of like enhanced by Locarno. Like Locarno made like a 10 list of selections for this year, basically supporting projects. I have no clue where this is, whether it's complete or in post-prod, or even still in production. So I'm thinking maybe he has a chance to go back in competition. He was a winner there the last decade. And there's also Sofia Coppola. So On the Rocks was an anticipated Croisette title. She won actually for somewhere like over a decade ago. Yeah, 2010. So do you think, I think Sofia lives in Europe, so that means physically for her to go just down to Italy, it's sort of like more or less what you're going through in life. So do you think that On the Rocks is part of that small contingency of US films, that US presence? Do you think that'll be in comp?
So I think this would be, again, a great coup, because she's been there. She has a connection to Venice. She's been quiet lately, so this would, but at the same time, of course, she's a huge name. But I actually don't think this is going to be there. I haven't heard anything. I don't know. I know that Barbera is really stepping up the women director quota this year. I think he's doing a good job with that. Finally, again, he has a history of maybe not taking that as seriously as he should have. And I know that they're trying to change that and to really do something substantial. But actually, ironically, I mean, this would be one of the first names on that list if you want to really get involved with that. But I don't think this is in. It might be as a total surprise, but as far as I know, no. And I know it's sort of like a lighter tone, Sofia Coppola. I mean, you could argue that all of them, the last few titles have been, they all have a tone that is, you know, light and fun.
You're right. I mean, this film starring Bill Murray is very much a neighborhood type thing.
Yeah,
like a Brooklyn flower shop, I think. So it does feel as if it's it's less vast or spread out as an idea, and yeah, tonally might be different. Just off topic, Apple TV, is that physically in Europe? Do people have access to the Apple TV films, including Greyhound that just came out?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I think so. I mean, I don't personally, but I think yeah, you can subscribe, and now everything. I think at first they got delayed a bit in Europe. There were people going a bit crazy with the titles, but now I think it should be up and running.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the ladies now that you brought that up. So I'm just going to throw out a bunch of titles. The speculation started with the Cannes Film Festival. And so it's sort of like a carryover from that idea.
Okay.
So we have The Story of My Wife with Léa Seydoux, Louis Garrel. We have Anna Lily Amirpour's Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon, which is an acquisitions title. And worth noting, she was there with her last film in competition called Bad Batch. Yeah. There's Chloe Zhao's Nomadland, which is a Fox Searchlight entity, and that's sort of been in post for a long time. It's probably been wrapped up because that filmmaker's heading towards larger projects. And there's a pair of filmmakers, first-time filmmakers that I think might show up there. There's Laura Baumeister. I always screw up names. Daughter of Rage, which was a San Sebastian in progress winner last year. So I have a feeling that she might do a back-to-back and hit Venice. And then finally, one title, again, another debut. This one's co-produced by the Dardenne brothers. It's called Honey Cigar, and that's from Kamir, Aïnouz. And that's a multi-country co-production. So out of those 5 titles, which ones, which one do you think really does have a strong chance of getting the Lido stamp?
Well, much as I'd like for it to be Nomadland by Chloe Zhao, I don't think that's a possibility.
Okay.
So I think I'm gonna go with Honey Cigar as a debut. I don't know anything about Daughter of Rage, but I know that that could also be something that Barbera, because Barbera this year, you know, a way to salvage what you can from this process in the circumstances is to go a bit more radical, is to be to go a bit more, you know, some out of left field kind of choices. So maybe that means more debut. I would certainly think that that's, especially considering the last couple of years of his selections, which I don't think were really up to scratch, and he went too heavily in the direction of like the Netflix package deals, package inclusions. So I think this would be, if it was me, I would just bet it all on these kind of first films that people are not expecting. So I think something like that could be good. I don't know about Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon. Again, yes, she's been there, but nothing that I've heard. Mm-hmm. So,
well, that would be refreshing, and yeah. Would be a really great call out to cinephilia, I think, and which says a lot about the resurgence or the renewal of cinema. I think it's important. So if that is indeed the case, it'll be so welcomed by the film community. And it's worth mentioning, I put down 3 sophomore titles, and of the 3, there's 2 female filmmakers. One that we've been really looking forward to on this site is Mona Fastvold's The World to Come, which has Casey Affleck, which has Katherine Wetterson, Christopher Abbott, and you know, she helped contribute to Brady Corbett's film. So there's like, you know, he was really popular on the Croisette with his first film feature. So it'd be nice to see her in Venice.
Yeah.
And there's also Leyla Bouzid, who's a French-Tunisian filmmaker, and she won with her debut at the Venice Days section. And she's there with Une histoire d'amour et de désir. And I feel as if that could potentially be in the comp as well. And finally, Eskil Voigt's The Innocents, a supernatural thriller. He came out at the same time, I think, as Fastvold, Scandinavian cinema. Their first films were both at Sundance, I believe, in 2014. So I think an international festival like this would be super beneficial, and comp slots as well. What do you think about those three titles?
I think that I would love to see The Innocents because I love Blind. I think that would be, it's perfect. It would be like the right kind of someone with a pedigree, but also something new, something fresh, and a little bit of a if indeed it is a supernatural thriller, that's something that would play very well. I'm guessing there won't be many of those, so I think that would be a perfect pick for the competition. I think The World to Come is a very heavily very heavy possibility, because this was supposed to be in Cannes. It's been announced, it obviously wasn't in the selection, the Cannes selection, for what it came out to be. But it was rumored, from what I know, I mean, it was supposed to be in Cannes, and then it wasn't. So, but it's still coming out. I don't see this as waiting it out for a whole year. So, and it's one of the bigger things out there, just for the taking. So I think this is gotta be there. It would be like the cast. It's great. So I mean, I would say this is a yes. And again, the Leyla Bouzid, yes, she won. It would be great if they could do more of picking these directors that were at the sidebars and putting them in competition. You don't see much of that in Venice, I think, just off the top of my head. So I don't think she is in, but why not? I would be all for that.
Cool. So like when I was thinking of the festival, I was thinking, if you're going to have a physical edition, you want to stick to selections that are, very close by. So I'm thinking a lot about the French titles, like it's their neighboring countries. So it makes a lot of sense for them to think about French titles. So I collected a 5-some right here. Stéphane Brizé, who's been there in 2016 with The Woman's Life, has a film called Pour le meilleur et pire. It sort of like feels apt to be in competition. It's got Vincent Lindon and his wife, Sandrine Camberlin. There's Xavier Beauvois, a film that he did with Jeremy Renner called L'Albatros. Used to be called Petit Fils. There's Comédie humaine by Xavier Giannoli. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And that's got a huge package of comedians. He's got Cécile de France, Xavier Dolan, Gerard Depardieu, Vincent Lacoste, and he was there a couple of years back with Marguerite. Benoit Jacot, who's, he goes to all the festivals. He was there with Three Hearts in the early part of the last decade. I think he's been back with another one, but this one it's called Suzanna Andler, and it's based on a Marguerite Duras play. It's got Charlotte Gainsbourg, Niall Schneider. It's been in the can since, I think, February of this year. So I have a good feeling about that, even if it's like the out of comp, it could potentially be play anywhere. And there's also a small project called Casablanca Beats, which is it's called a realist hip hop musical. I feel as if we need feel good titles. I don't know if that's categorically a feel good title, but I feel as if that could be part of any lineup. So just briefly, Brizé, Beauvois, Giannoli, Jacot.
I think the Brizé would be a great choice. I think if again, I haven't heard anything, but if I could pick one, I would pick that one. I think it would be good in comp. But I think that something like the Benoit Jacot is something that I can totally see there. again, as you say, maybe not even in comp, but it's people still remember Three Hearts. I personally remember it. It wasn't even that great, but like it feels to me like the kind of title that it really fits this Venice administration, the current one. I would just take it, and just there as a. There's not gonna be. We haven't mentioned that, but like the section this year, as you said, it's been slimmed down.
Mm-hmm.
It will be slimmed down not only in terms of the amount of film in competition, which I don't know if it's going to be 20 because that's pretty regular size competition for Venice. But what they've done is they got rid of a couple of other sections, like the newest one first to go out, Sconfini, which was sort of like it was a little bit of everything. It didn't have the time to find its own direction yet.
Yeah.
It's only a couple of years. It's been there for a couple of years, and they got rid of that. So this leaves a lot of there's not that much space for films that are not in the main competition, other than the outer competition slot. But Venice doesn't do much with the outer competition slot, so we don't know about that. The other thing they got rid of is the virtual reality, which will be online. They got rid of the classic section, which will be in Bologna for Il Cinema Ritrovato. So this should leave with a more streamlined, just main comp and Orizzonti. I don't see any of these in Orizzonti. Well, actually, maybe this project, the France-Morocco one, why not? I think Orizzonti has been neglected to some extent in the last few years, but I don't think any of these could go there. These are all too big, I think. So this, if we're talking about comp, I would guess the Brizé would be a good shout.
If I'm not mistaken, Lucrezia Martel masterwork was that part of the Horizonti section?
I don't know.
It wasn't in comp. I know that.
Okay.
I wasn't there. You were. You should know this stuff. I'm kidding.
I know, but Horizontis, I haven't been following it that closely.
It does feel like an undisciplined section, and
a little bit. Yeah, I would like for them to do something with it, because I think it's been suffering also because the two sidebars, which are the Critics Week and the Giornata degli Autori, they have been really strong lately, both of them. And so, of course, that's the thing that gets squeezed out in between. It's the Orizzonti, because obviously the competition is its own thing. But some great work on the sidebar sections as kind of, has put Orizzonti in a difficult position. And I should also say that I noticed you didn't mention in your little French selection, Mians and Love. I guess that would have been, it was an early candidate. People were talking about it, but I guess she's waiting for a little bit longer.
That's the thing, is I'm assuming there's a lot of big filmmakers that I have not named, and in any given year, if they would have skipped out on Cannes, they would have been in Venice.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hansen Love, I think it was eradicated from the 2020 calendar. I think its play date was in June or July, right after Cannes. It could have even been in the month of May. So when I saw that it wasn't repositioned for, let's say, even like a December release and domestically in France, I got a sense that perhaps City really wanted that film in competition, and perhaps partnered and said, hey, you can wait an extra year, we'll make sure that you're there. So yeah.
We there's a couple of notable examples of that. I don't know if she will wait a whole year for next May in Cannes. I think we might see her sooner than that, but I don't know. What I know is that I think this is kind of a missed opportunity, because again, it's one of those that the resulting Cannes selection didn't get, and I think Venice should have been, as you said, should have been the next call, and trying to make it happen, because this was supposed to be, of course, huge. So that's a big miss, but we'll see where it pops up.
Yeah, what I do know is she has a good reputation with TIFF as well. So I don't know how it would work for international guests, but anybody who's French, that happens to be in Italy, could technically come over on a flight to Toronto.
Right,
I think. I don't know how it works with the sequestering and all that stuff. So it's up in the air, but definitely if it is in Venice, it'll somehow show at TIFF. Next up are some long shots, films that I don't see anywhere, but sort of like I'd love to see them at a play in Venice. So there's 5 films I came up with, and so like, yeah, you're like the bullshit meter. So you can tell me if I'm just like dreaming. The first one, so as we know, is Netflix. They haven't announced it yet, but they don't plan to participate in the film festival circuit this year. So there's 2 titles that I think still should have a presence because of some Euro factor or some attachment to the festival. And the first one at the top of the list is Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending Things. So Charlie Kaufman, this is his 3rd feature film, and in 2015 he was in competition at Venice. So with a September 4th release in Netflix, yeah, do you think somehow it'll show up in competition?
So I would think that this is like, it has Venice written all over it in normal circumstances. I would say that would be an absolute certainty. But I've also heard that Netflix is not going to be doing the festival. So, I mean, it would be weird, because it's one thing in a sea of other indicators and hints that this would have been his natural place. So I would say totally yes. It makes sense. It's a big name. It's been there. But again, if Netflix is skipping it, and also consider, as I mentioned before, if there's anyone who was laid the groundwork over the years for a successful and continued relationship with Netflix, it's Barbera. So I would expect them to even accommodate him somehow. But if that's a decision that is made at such a high level that they're not going to do the festival in the fall, then there's nothing to be done. I would say that this would have been a great pick. I would say I would stick to what we've heard. So maybe not, but again, other than that, everything would point to this being in the selection.
Yeah, one thing's for sure is there's no way Charlie Kaufman's leaving his apartment to do anything except for a Zoom or a Skype session. So yeah, if it does get included, maybe like an out of comp thing or something like that. Like you said, he does have a great relationship with Netflix. Another title that is not being really mentioned, but has a lot of I don't want to say Euro sensibility, but Ben Wheatley has been to a lot of European film festivals to premiere his films. Even like Carlo Vivari was the leader of a world premiere selection for his. He's been to the Directors Fortnight. He's somebody that benefits tremendously from that type of exposure. This is a film that's a remake of Hitchcock. I think it's in the $40 million range. Yeah, and it's one that's not being mentioned a lot. What do you think about this crazy idea?
I don't see it.
Okay.
Because I haven't heard anything. I don't think he's ever been to Venice, but that doesn't really matter. You're right, he was everywhere. I liked his last film. We did an interview with him from Macau last year. Well, not 2 years ago. It's been everywhere. So, I mean, it would be a good fit. I think an experience in Venice would really doing good, but nothing that I've heard points to this.
Ulrich Sedel has been there. I remember when he did his trilogy, I think he had played in Cannes, Venice. He did like the trifecta.
Yeah.
He's been working on a project that's sort of like low to the ground, off everybody's radar, called Bosse Spiel. I think that's how you pronounce it. What do you think about that one?
I remember when he brought his trilogy and he went to all the festivals. I thought that was very neatly done, very smooth on his
The
part.
Paradise Trilogy.
Yeah. So I think this would be perfect. It's like it's a European selection. It's someone you can always count on. It really feels. I think it's also from what I read, there's something Italian about it. Even like it's maybe. I don't know. I don't remember the story specifically,
Okay.
but like there's something in there that makes it something that I think it's low maintenance. You know that it's you know what you get, and it would be a good pick. So if it is indeed ready, because as you mentioned, this has been low to the ground. I haven't heard about him for a while. But if he's there, I would say it's perfect. Why not? Let's bring him in.
Next up, that brings up so much debate is Kashish, where his Miktob, My Love trilogy was snapped in two when Intermezzo was shown at Cannes, I believe last year.
Yeah.
And but part one was featured in competition in Venice and in 2017. So yeah, that would be a total surprise in my books. But yet he does have a relationship with this festival just as much as he does with Cannes. Any chances? What do you think the chances are that we see a Canto Tre?
So I must preface that I would talk about this for hours. Look, I was the first film was a revelation for me in 2017 in Venice. It was one of the best things I'd seen all year. There was also some talk of this being back when this was Canto Uno, and then we thought Canto Due would come, and then Canto Tre. There was a talk, since we mentioned Urlik Seidel, of doing the three big festivals in Europe, and just split it up like that. That never happened. I mean, unless this pops up in Berlin next year. I think not. But at the same time, Keshish lately, since he started his Mektub project, he has been even more so, more a rebel than usual. He's gone a bit underground. He's fought with everyone because what they did to his films for the distribution. Like the stuff that I've heard in Paris is crazy. The films are somehow having a healthy life out there somehow. Again, not necessarily through normal distribution channels. So the truth is, this probably doesn't even respect the normal laws and customs of distribution that we base this kind of predictions on. So, which means that it could pop up. It would be a way to, not finish, because we don't know if this is the last one, because intermezzo is an intermezzo, so it's something that happens in between. It's not necessarily the second part of his trilogy. I think the second one that was in Cannes last year, it was an epic screening, a midnight, 4 hours with that scene in a club. It's great. It's highly problematic. We discuss this all the time, especially in Cannes. There's a lot to debate, but I think cinematically it's something truly, truly astonishing. So I would love to, but there is no way of knowing. I would lean towards no.
With that, before we head into the Italians, which is I'm hoping to get a lot more intel on your part. There's 4 other titles that I sort of put out there. Frederick Wiseman, City Hall. I think it might be one of perhaps his last documentary film. He has been on the Lido many times. Obviously, he's not physically going to go there. He's an elder statesman in cinema, so perhaps his film will travel there. Petrov's Flu, which just had a trailer release. I was really surprised this week. Kirill, I'm going to screw up his name, Serebrennikov, who's in jail right now. It's not a good situation for him. There's Dear Comrades by Andrei, again, Chernolovsky, who was there in 2016 with Paradise. He's been there before. Dear Comrades, 1962 Soviet, based in the Soviet Union type. I think it's black and white feature. I have a good feeling for that. And there's also Mikel Franco, who, again, he's one of those filmmakers that goes to Cannes, that goes to Venice. He was part of the jury in Venice. Some of the films that he's produced and end up going to both festivals. And he shot a thing in Mexico City called The Dreams of Few. Again, it's another film that I feel would have been at home in Cannes, but I feel as if he could very much decide to go to Venice and sort of like tempt the acquisitions section of, or the mindset of certain people that do cover that festival. So yeah, Weissman, two Russian filmmakers, and Michael Franco. What are your thoughts on those films?
I think that, as you mentioned, Frederick Wiseman would be a very traditional pick for Venice. Again, pretty easy because you don't expect him to be there. Just put it out there. I would say absolutely. That's a possibility, strong possibility. Serebrennikov is a bit more complicated. He actually was in Venice. I remember his film Betrayal, I think in 2012, was kind of a middle of the road competition entry, but it really stayed with me. And then of course he went on to do Leto, which was a big hit in Cannes. As you mentioned, he for the last year and a half, I think, he's been having some serious problems in Russia. He was accused of, he was the director of a theater, I think, and he was accused of mismanaging the finances of that. Again, he's been convicted. I think he's not in jail. Like he's out, but like
he's convicted. In big trouble. He needs to get out of there.
I don't know. Well, yes, but I don't know how that works for, you know, especially now for just coming to a festival. So maybe not. Konchalovsky, again, he was there 3 or 4 years ago with the Postman's White Nights,
yeah.
Which, so again, surprisingly, won. I can't remember what he won, but I haven't heard anything about this one, so I don't have any indication. But again, it really fits, and I think it's high time that Venice brings back some Russian cinema. I don't consider, like, if you bring Konchalovsky, that's not enough for me. Like, I would expect something more, something newer, some voice that is not as well known. But again, better than nothing, so I would take him. And
the Venice Film Festival, there's a lot of Mexican filmmakers that sort of like won back year. So I think Michael Franco could interrupt what the Joker sort of like, or put back into place. Anyway, we never know. And last but not least, so I'm going to avoid speaking about Asian filmmakers, not that I don't want to talk about them, but it's so difficult to sort of assess where they fall in the strategy, and I'm not as well versed, not because I don't want to, but it's so difficult to get information on those that contingent. But let's talk about so there's a lot of Italian titles that were supposed to be in Cannes, obviously delayed, and want to be presented in Venice so that they can have some more add further weight to what might be a domestic release. I know you guys are not into movie watching during the summer, so it sort of like makes sense that that they would hit up a fall festival. So let's go with what I think are the surefire ones. So Lucetti, Moretti, those were the ties, and Three Floors were for certain they were going to be in Cannes. Are they going to be in Venice and in Cannes?
So I actually have to, this is a big blow, I know, for me, first of all, but Moretti is not going to be there for sure. Trepiani, long awaited, is being laying low. this was supposed to be like his big comeback. Again, very strongly associated with Cannes. He never liked Venice. Nonetheless, once Cannes didn't happen, everybody assumed that it would be in Venice. And I think at that point, it would have been the smart choice for him. And also, I think this is the biggest regret that Barbera has about this whole thing, this whole year. The one thing that he wanted and couldn't get was Tre Piani. And I think he's waiting it out, and I think it's gonna be next year, because the Italian distributor announced that it's gonna come out in the first few months of 2021, which probably means Cannes, but like this was supposed to be in Venice, and it's a big loss that it's not.
Traditionally, I know the Italians will. Normally in competition in Cannes, the Italians you always get one or two titles, and from those titles, they either already premiered, and the same thing applies to Pedro Almodovar films, usually premiere in Spain just beforehand, which means that you just have one film to watch less when you come to the Cannes Film Festival. So that's a surprise for Daniele Lucchetti, the ties.
Daniele Lucchetti is an interesting one. He's been around forever. He's someone I really like him personally. Nothing about this film excites me that much. It's a story of a marriage in routine and regret and all of that. So like, it's not something that you haven't seen before. I think it's a possibility. It's probable that it's going to be there. Not for sure, but it still is a big name. So as far as I know, it's certainly in the discussion.
One filmmaker that I absolutely adored. I mean, I remember the experience of I think it's like Quattro Volte.
Yeah.
In 2010, this blew a hole in my head. It was the director's 4-night selection, I believe, in the Cannes Film Festival. I've been eagerly awaiting his next film. So Michelangelo Framartino did a movie called El Buco, or The Hole. Please tell me it's going to show up in Venice.
Look, this is one of the many films, including Moretti, including other big films like the Freaks Out, which is it's a big one, that have been highly impacted by the pandemic. They had to halt productions. So the truth is, I haven't heard anything. I don't think it's going to be there. But it was a possibility, and as you said, highly anticipated. It would be the perfect type of Italian director that Venice needs to get. Someone who's not too much of a regular, someone who's not the name is not too inflated, and again, perfect standing for a Venice competition, but maybe not.
One title that is being shopped by the Wild Bench gang is The Third War. This is actually a directorial debut by a gentleman named Giovanni Aloi, and he's done a lot of short films, and one of them was really won in Venice, I believe, a couple of years back. Do you have any intel on that title?
No, this is something it's not being talked about. But again, I would be very curious to see it. I think with a project of like making this Venice a bit more daring, a bit with more debut. This is what they're looking for. So it might be, but not that I know of. I should add that there's a couple of like this season, aside from like the old the venerable maestros like Moretti and even Lucchetti to an extent, there was supposed to be like two big more mainstream titles. One is, as I mentioned, Freaks Out from the director of his name was Gigi Rabot, which is kind of like a comedy superhero big success, big hit in Italy a few years back. But again, for some reason, is sitting Venice out. This would have been a great concession to something, as you said, a lighter tone, but at the same time, still a huge draw and an Italian director up and coming off this big hit. And also at the same time, the Manetti brothers, who have also been there a lot, they do this kind of like weird comedy musical hybrid. They are adapting one of the most famous comics, it's Diabolic. It's like high profile cast with Luca Marinelli. Like it's a hit, and I think they're saving it for the holiday season. But again, this is also a miss for Venice, because these are two, maybe not both, but like one of them I think should have been there as a way of like showcasing this sort of different Italian cinema. So imagine like you have Moretti and then one of these two, and then of course you can put some of the debut and younger directors in there. That would have been like, I think, the dream, but we're looking at something very, very different now.
Before we wrap up, I mean, I've just thrown a whole bunch of titles at you. Obviously, I didn't mention some of the biggies, the more anticipated titles of the year. The OCAD X is just one of the many filmmakers that are at the top of my wish list. Is there anything that's at the top of your wish list and that you're sort of like
well, we haven't there's more Italian stuff actually, because I think Emma Dante, I think she's coming back for sure. She's a very well respected theater director, writer, really, really interesting profile. She was in Venice in 2013, I think, with A Street in Palermo. It's the international title, which was, again, didn't leave much of a trace, but it was really good. It was in competition, and it was a simple story of like people in a street, like facing off against each other. The street was too narrow for them to both pass, and he had Alvaro Walker. So, you know, a lovely film, very interesting, and adapted from her own material, from a novel, I believe. And now she has a new film, which the Italian distributor, just a few days ago, they sort of, because this was shot in 2019, so it was already supposed to be there last year. Then it kind of went dark, even before the emergency, the pandemic and everything. It just went dark for a bit. I don't know what held it up. But now the distributor has put it back on the roadmap of the fall. And I think the date that they put out indicates that this is one of the surefire. Like it's absolutely going to be in Venice. So this is called the Macaluso Sisters. Again, strong Sicilian identity. It's adapted from a stage play. So this is, I think, it's going to be, obviously she's a woman. So back to what we were discussing in the beginning, but a great pick. And also another one, similar profile. I don't know if you've seen Susanna Nicchiarelli's films.
Yeah, I'm familiar with her.
She was also in Venice a couple of years ago.
Nico.
Nico, 1988. But also she was with her first film. She really was a big sensation about a decade ago, 2009, 2010, something like that, when she broke through. And so I think she's coming with her next film, which is about Karl Marx's daughter. So the film is called Miss Marx, and from what I've read, again, distributors, because in the last couple of weeks, a lot of distributors, Italian distributors, have put out their plans, and based on that, I think we can say that this is in, and I can say that this would certainly be in competition, because she's been, I think she was in Orizzonti at first.
She was.
And yeah, so she's been in Orizzonti. This absolutely needs to step up to the competition level.
Great. So some homegrown talent and a competition that reflects the changing times. Well, we're very much late with that, but at least this festival is. But so is Cannes. So what do I know? And that's basically it.
Yeah.
So thanks for the conversation. I guess we're both looking forward to what July 28th is going to look, sound like, feel like, and we'll get to discuss more in depth then. But thank you for your insights, your appreciation for this festival, and looking forward to living this from afar and through your eyes and through your writing. And yeah.
Hey, with nothing, the thing is, nobody knows what this is going to look like. It's not just a different Venice, as you said. It's the first festival that we'll go back to, the first major one. So there's going to be a lot of it's added weight. It's not just a different Venice, as we said. It's more streamlined. There's probably not going to be as many guests, both on the side of the filmmakers, but also press is going to find it a bit harder to come from abroad. So it's probably going to be a more Italian edition, a bit more local, which honestly doesn't sound too bad, because it's a chance to just take a break and look inward, see where we're at. So I think that could be very, very interesting. But we don't know. Even for a lot of people in the industry, this is going back to work, basically, in a way that we don't know what's going to be different, how we're going to feel. There's going to be a lot logistically. It's not going to be easy. Of course, the major goal of having fewer films is so that they can have more screenings, and so they can let people in and be properly spaced out. But it's going to be probably the most anticipated Venice edition in a while, just based on, to see how this looks like, how the festivals look like now, which it's what we've all been asking ourselves for the last 3 months. So excited to see what's going to be new there. And hey, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of festival onlookers looking at this edition, and the same applies to TIFF and whatever Telluride looks like as well. 3 big festivals, and the same applies to San Sebastian as well. So social distancing, what do you do when everything's constrained? How does it impact industry? How does it impact sales? How does it impact titles that don't have that are acquisitions friendly? How does it impact so many things? So yeah, we're going to be taking the temperature.
Yeah, for sure.
Of this festival, and so thank you very much, and
thank you.
Stay sane, stay creative, and stay well.
You too, man.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I'm Eric Lavallee. I'm editor-in-chief and site owner for IonCinema.com, and this is
Kevin Jaggernaut, contributing writer for the playlist.
And together we are IndieSponge.